Hi, and welcome to heaven. This is Raquel Lauch,
Julia Kibilda.
and today we have yet another light topic, and we're going to talk about AI, which we're all very much in love with at the moment, and how it
Yes.
basically impacts women. And we're going to make discussion on this. But before that, Julia, what are you drinking?
I am drinking coffee today, but I can actually tell you more about it because it's a very delicious coffee that I bought in Amsterdam when I was there last weekend. And it's from one of the best roasteries in the world, which is called Fried Hats. And also, yeah, I'm drinking coffee because I had to wake up for work at 5:50 a.m. today. So, yeah, it's been
Um, I mean, I'm very glad for you. I was not expecting such a complex answer, but I'm glad you had it. I am drinking a liquor, so it's called ginginha, and yeah, that's
a
all.
very cute glass. You guys cannot see, but actually, I was in a restaurant yesterday and I saw glasses that were exactly like that. And I took a photo of them because I wanted to have them. And now I know that you have them. So, yes.
Yeah, it's like a wine glass, but miniature, as if like if kids could drink, that's the glass that they would take. It's like a cute mini wine glass.
It's so perfect and round. Anyways, yeah, so where do we even start? I feel like AI has been such a big topic and there is so much discussion about it literally everywhere and so many positives and negatives and there is just such an ocean of information that no one knows what to
Yeah,
talk
it's
about
definitely
anymore.
yeah, it's definitely been like a huge topic, and I think a lot of people have been mostly feeling it in their work fields. At least I have on my job interviews, people asking me about AI and what I think,
Yeah,
which is
totally.
I think today we want to focus more about on the AI developments and this technology and how it is impacting women in a quite negative way, which is a bit of like a reflection on how these inequalities, especially when it comes to power dynamics, are still very imbalanced in
Yeah.
our society, even though we keep saying that it's not true and that, I don't know, sexism doesn't really exist, but then a new technology comes around and actually we still have a lot of problems.
Yeah, especially in the context of AI, when people are saying that, yeah, this is the most objective thing, it's the new, thing that will help us achieve ultimate fairness and objectivity in the world, blah, 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 that is transcending like human prejudices and all of that. But actually, it's not true. Especially I read about AI within like hiring processes. So I'm sure as many of you know, like AI is used a lot in big companies and not only like in most like engines right now to kind of filter candidates for work. And so it's probably like the first thing that assesses the CVs and applications and kind of filters through them and gives like an initial opinion or even already like discards some of the candidates completely. And I read this article that one of the big companies had to get rid of that system that was employing AI because, as you know, AI is a learning engine. So like it learns based on a data set or on like past data sources that are supplied to it, and it basically has to be trained. And so this hiring AI system was trained based on the previous hiring processes, which were highly misogynistic and were favoring men. And so this AI engine actually learned to be misogynistic and favor
Yeah.
male candidates over female candidates in the hiring processes, which is
Yeah.
just insane to me. And the fact that no one even thought about that is crazy to me. And they had to like get rid of the whole system because it was just completely skewed.
Honestly, I feel like that's such a great example. Also, to say that for people who argue that sexism doesn't exist anymore and everyone has exactly the same opportunities, because it really, by copying the system, it became the system itself. So it's really like putting out there how misogynistic that system already was and how it is also a behavior that you learn. So being misogynistic in a way, it is a behavior that you learn. And the AI literally did that. So I think it actually reveals more of the maybe hidden misogyny that was within that company, for example,
Yeah.
and it would never come about in other ways.
Yeah, totally. And then I also saw kind of even a wider reach of the similar discussion that when those problems are raised about technology, those fields are already highly men dominated. And so it's very often men who are the writers behind those programs and the people who kind of are dominant in that industry. And so those problems are often dismissed by them in the first place because they're saying like, oh yeah, there is no issue. And so it's such a deep and complex issue, I think. Obviously, sure, we're not going to cover all of the ins and outs of it because it's such a complex net of like interconnected causes and then results. But even on such a simple example, you can clearly see something that kind of needs to be looked at with a closer eye and we as like human beings need to be more critical of it, because I feel like right now this trend of AI being infallible is so big that people would just literally believe anything they see online, or like just trust the machine more than they would trust, you know, their own brain. And I think this more so even shows that we need to be way more attuned to like what we're seeing and what information is provided to us based on those technologies, and yeah, be like really critical of everything that we see.
No, definitely. And I think that's also all a question of entitlement as well, because if we are humans and we're all flawed and we all have our perspectives, so am I surprised that a guy did not see the possible impacts that he was creating to a woman when creating technologies? No, I'm not surprised. But my problem is not the fact that you cannot tell, is more like you think it's not needed. I think that's the biggest problem. You have to understand that you are flawed. So you're going to create a machine to be completely unbiased. You have to first realize your own personal biases and make sure they don't transport to the machine. And
Yeah,
that's really not what's
exactly.
happening with AI. And it's growing. And I think the thing for me that's quite scary is the speed of growth of AI in so many different areas. That's starting to scare me because there's no way for you to keep it up to the point that you have so many open source AI programs that don't sometimes create the best. As you say, AI is a learning machine, but we can also say it's just a copying machine. So it just copies whatever you put. So it's all based on the input that you put in it, and the machine just recreates it or copies it or learns. So it is going to be extremely flawed, the more flawed you also are as a human
Yeah,
being.
and as you said, it's so fast that there is no way to accurately regulate it because we as human beings cannot keep up with the regulations, because the scale of it expanding and developing and new problems arising is just not sustainable compared to like our legislative system. So it just doesn't translate at all. And oh, by the way, the company was Amazon. So it wasn't any small niche company.
Mhm.
It was a global conglomerate that Amazon is. And yeah, it's just crazy. Speaking of Amazon, another kind of AI thing that's really weird to me is that all the AI tools, or at least most of them, like the assistant and stuff, are women. So they're based on women. So like Siri, Alexa, Cortana, etc. They're all
Yeah.
female assistants. They're like, they all have female names and they're all meant to assist you. And I think it's very obviously you can change their voice to be male, but they were designed to be like based on women and women
Mhm.
fulfilling that role of an assistant. And that's just so sexist because it's just prevailing
Yeah.
this idea of the woman who's assisting the man in their daily tasks, like a secretary or whatever.
Yeah, I think, no, I think you nailed with that word secretary. I feel like this has a deeper, in a sense, like a more historical root that just never changed. We had all this long history and development of technology, but the problem remains the same. While before you had the nurses, secretaries, and all these taking care kind of roles that was like came out of being a domestic at home,
Yeah.
you start working in the work field, but you first start in these also taking care kind of roles, and it grows on to like every time you see someone creating a robot, it's always a woman.
Yeah.
Like I forgot what was Sophie. I think that's how it's called. That robot, very famous, Sophia.
I
Maybe
don't.
not. But anyway, it's the one that has like just a face and no back
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
It's also a female. If you see like many movies, like
Yeah, like Ex Machina and stuff. Yeah.
Ex Machina, Tron: The Legacy, Blade Runner, all these like robots, all these holograms, assistants are always women and they always support the male lead. So I feel like the more technology we have, we are developing it. It just keeps showing the same root of the problem of the female assistant to the men. Why? Because the men are still the ones who are creating these systems as well. So we have definitely a problem that we have to, before we keep on developing these things, we need to address these rooter type of the problem that is women are always so excluded from it. I don't know, like the more I think about AI, it just feels so dystopian to me. And it feels very scary because I start seeing like what happens in all these movies that we've done like 50 years ago, and we are like doing it now. And I'm
Oh,
like,
it's
it
like a
feels wrong.
disaster
We know that.
happening like in front of our eyes, and we have like no way to stop it.
Yeah, no, I hated it. Like I don't like it. The reason, for example, I don't like to watch Black Mirror, for example, is because it's real.
Yeah,
Like
it's like
I
too
feel
real.
so many of those things. I mean, it is very well done, do not get me wrong. I don't watch it because it gives me extreme anxiety of like this is happening literally
I know.
right now.
I know.
It's not even a future. It's just like it feels like a documentary. Like I'm like, I cannot.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the issue is also that all of those tools and assistants, they're not only based on a female as in like they have a female name or like a female voice. They're literally also made to be super obedient and kind of I've read that like even when people would make sexist jokes or like really crude comments to those assistants, they would, instead of educating the people who are doing them or being like, oh, Google what is an inappropriate comment or something like that, they would be trained to respond in a joking way and like flip it. So kind of as like women in the real world are learned to just appease the situation themselves instead of actually like tackling the root of the problem, which is men being dicks. It's the women who have to like make the situation calmer and kind of flip it into a joke or whatever, like completely dismissing the comments. That's just so crazy that even the robots are trained to put up with behavior like that.
It kind of comes from, I mean, we talked about this before so many times, but it really comes from like, oh, boys will be boys. Therefore, like, what can we do? Let's just learn to live with it. But even that problem with always being female voices or female type of assistants, it's also that, is it like putting into a male assistant gonna make it any better? I'm not too sure because if I think of myself, most of my assistance programs or even like on Google Maps or when like you're driving and you have yours giving
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
the GPS, it's usually also a woman. You can like change it, but I also prefer to have a woman. And I think it's because I feel I also have been trained to find women much more friendly and approachable, while a man giving me directions on what to do, it feels bossy or it feels threatening. And perhaps that's not even like, maybe he's not being threatening, he's acting as the female voice acts, but you're like, I don't know if I trust.
Yeah, it's
So,
like this feels wrong. Like my Siri is obviously a woman, like I don't know.
yeah.
It would be so weird if you like say, "Hey Siri," and then like this man answers. He's like, "Yeah, what's up?"
For a very long time, I had my Siri as like an Australian man in my Siri or my iPhone because I don't know, I was a teenager and I was like, I'm against patriarchy, so I'm gonna have my assistant being an Australian man, and I had it for many years. But I think what I want to say with that, did that actually made a difference? I did grow more used to like having a male voice has the assistant. So perhaps that could be the way. But maybe the problem, as you were saying, is more how that machine reacts to that behavior. So as you
Yeah,
said, if the machine, instead of just being all like, ah, ha, ha, did you mean to say this? Or perhaps you should research it here, and be more like, that sounds offensive language. Please do not say that.
yeah,
Things like that. Just that would be like a different act of not having a female voice, because I think the most important on these things that, oh yeah, it's fake, it's not a real person, but it is a representation of a real person. And we as humans do not need a real distinction between either of them. A
yeah,
representation is enough to make you act the way you act towards real people
yeah.
anyway.
That's very true.
Yeah, so I would say that, yeah, it has to do more with the behavior, but obviously diversify in terms of voices. I know that, for example, in train and tube announcements, usually it's also a woman telling, and it's like coded. It's not like a real person telling you what was the next stop or what train is
Yeah, yeah,
coming. But at least here in Portugal, you sometimes have both. So you have a woman saying a train is coming, and then you have a guy complimenting the rest. Sometimes it switches, and I think getting people used to hear both voices, not be just so one one-sided of always having a woman assisting you can be part.
Yeah, it can make a change because then people who are younger than us, who kind of like grow up hearing both, will not have that bias anymore. And they'll be like, yeah, this is
Yeah.
completely normal. Like in the tram, it's a woman, and then in the bus, it's a man, or something like that. Um, it's also like prevalent in so many different platforms and areas of life in technology, because technology is so big everywhere now. And I think this, for example, on Instagram and Facebook and all of that, the AI engines are also used to flag sexually explicit content and block people. And apparently 90% of the cases or something like that, the photos of women are more likely to be marked as explicit. But even when it's like a picture of a woman in a bikini, or like a picture of a woman who's breastfeeding, so something that's totally not sexual by nature, is flagged as such by the AI just because there's a bit of body in it, whereas you'd have an image of a dick and it may have been like missed. So even that is an example of inequality and this thing
Yeah.
flawed.
Yeah, it's pushing the stereotype that like our bodies are
Are
inherently
sexual,
sexual,
exactly.
which is wrong. I mean, we love boobs, but boobs are for breastfeeding. They're actually not sexual organs.
Like, get over it.
Yeah, get over it. Like,
Little
please.
balls of fat, like they're completely fine. And yeah, it just shows that like we're way more objectified even by a machine. And same as with the voices, is kind of this also idea of exposure and what we're used to once again. And we're used to like female bodies being censored and whole free the nipple thing and all of that. And it's just becoming fully translated into machine learning and technology, which is really, really concerning. And to be honest, it'll be probably much harder to reverse than changing like our human behavior, because if this machine are gonna learn this at this point, it will be so hard to take that back in the future. And we're kind of already setting ourselves up for having this like skewed reality in technology as well, which is the same thing as we did with our real lives.
Yeah, especially because the machines are becoming more and more independent. So if we keep giving them this type of behavior to learn, if we don't address these issues within our society before we're passing on to machines, I don't know, the future looks a bit bleak. Like,
Oh, like I wasn't
um,
obviously I was aware, but then I started researching for this episode, and the stuff that I read, I was just like, this makes so much sense, but also I wouldn't even think of it. It's so stupid and so scary. It's kind of like
yeah.
you don't even want to know, you know? It's just
No, definitely. There was a lot of things. For example, a very recent news that happened was in Spain. They created this full AI woman presenter, so of the TV.
oh yeah, I
And
saw that, I think.
and I think she's also like a AI influencer. So she's both, and she's highly realistic. Of course, she doesn't like exist in real life.
Yeah.
And I think what worries me about that, people are like, oh, well, all presenters were gonna lose their jobs. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really what I'm worried about. I'm worried about this fake looking woman, which obviously looks all perfect. You know, she incorporates all the beauty standards, at least of Spain, of like her face, hair, figure. She is a machine and she's going to be, for example, young forever. So and again, the first AI person you created is again a woman, which again, it just shows how we are just representations of ourselves. And a woman can never be just a human in a sense to me. Like we always just representation. So of course it doesn't matter if the presenter is a real woman or AI, because we are not seeing in a different way. We are seeing as just that, a pretty object to look at, and it makes us feel good about ourselves in some way, or like does a service for us in some way.
Yeah.
So that's and to be fair, that was my whole argument as well with AI replacing like, possible job roles. People talking to me about it. I'm like, if people perceive me as a disposable means, then of course I'm going to be replaced, because I was actually never seen as valuable. And it can go beyond that into a role that women are and are viewed in society. If AI can be just as replaceable, and it's even better because she's going to stay young and beautiful forever, then it just shows how you never cared for the human woman that was there before.
Yeah,
But the
exactly.
problem is that we're not going to act on it. We're just going to, yeah, I don't know. What worries me is really how women are perceived as just objects at the end of the day, even if you say it's not, because then you did not create an AI of a man. I haven't seen AIs of men.
No, not at all. And the thing is that if people could invent like an AI woman that would bear children, we would just be made extinct, you know?
I mean, they still can't do it. That's the only thing I feel men just cannot win ever. Like we are the ones who are still creating humanity. So at least something we have. I don't know. I see more the other way around. You know, now that we're talking about this, something that, for example, I thought about, but then never came up to talk about it in our Poor Things review episode was the fact that Poor Things is pretty much like it's a very Frankenstein-based type of story, which is a story written by a woman of a man creating another man. However, every story, like, you know, film that
Yeah.
came after this is mostly men creating women.
Women. Yeah, yeah.
I never saw a man creating another man. I have only seen that. I mean, I might be wrong. Please do tell me if you know of any other media that does that. It was only Frankenstein of a man creating another man because it was written by a woman, actually. And to me, it's quite interesting how when a woman creates a story of that kind, she's more interested about the whole monstrosity of the thing itself, while when a man is creating a woman is mostly for sexual gratification.
Yeah, like
So
his
it's
own pleasure, and they always have like very questionable relationships with the objects that they create. Even though being the creator, you're a fatherly figure, so it's all so extremely problematic on so many levels.
And I think with the whole thing of AI, and then also in science fiction, like this obsessiveness of creating robots, and you create all these female robots, I actually think everything comes, maybe I'm being stretching a bit, but perhaps it's a bit of envy because that's the only thing a woman can do and a man can't, which is create life.
That's an interesting argument. I like that.
I thought about this when talking about Poor Things, but it just never came about. But I think it's very fitting for here because we still keep seeing men in technology always creating things and trying to create life in a way or another,
Yeah.
and creating like a robot or an AI influencer figure really comes about to that. And maybe that's why they never create men; they just create women. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, but that's very true. It's like if you can't do it the natural way, you're just trying to play God and, make it your own.
And
By making your own, also kind of claiming possession of it, which is kind of, like
yeah,
men,
yeah, the
women in
woman
real
who.
life.
Yeah, the woman who keeps kind of running away from like, oh, like she doesn't want to do what I want to do. Let me create my own. That it really comes about to that in the end of the day. Which makes the whole story of Frankenstein, the original story, the more interesting because the whole story is all about who's the monster, the creature that's made of like corpses or the man who made it.
Yeah.
Isn't it more monster-like to create life in an artificial way? And that was like a story from like 200 years ago, so obviously it was much more. But if you think about it, yeah, like creating an AI is a very artificial way of creating life, and shouldn't that be perceived as monstrous almost?
Hot take.
Hmm. Think about it.
Food
AI is
for
not all
thought.
cool things. Food for thought.
Food
Thank you for
for-
coming for my TED talk. Like we can do the autographs at the end of the day. It's fine.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's move on to this other subtopic that I think it was kind of why we want to make this episode as well, which has to do with deepfakes and AI nudes.
Yeah.
Mostly due to that news of this pretty much attack on Twitter of Taylor Swift deepfakes being spread around the app and the platform to the point that I think only by the time we are recording, last week, that you could actually search Taylor Swift on Twitter. So they blocked the searches of Taylor
Really?
Swift on purpose. Yeah, because it took a very long time for them to take out all the images out of the platform.
Yeah.
And yeah. And this was a pretty big attack on the singer and actually revealed a much disturbing side of the internet and problem with AI that actually has been going on for many years. It's not that recent as it looked
Yeah.
like. It looks recent because it happened to a major celebrity. and in such a public and mainstream space, but it's actually been quite a while around more deep sides of the internet or like even platforms like Reddit, subgroups and things like that. And it's a very disturbing topic.
It is. And especially when you think about the scale, a source that I had said that 96% of deepfakes are of non-consensual sexual nature, and 99% of those are of women.
Yeah, yeah,
99. That's like
yeah,
almost all in like millions in the entirety of the fucking internet.
yeah.
99% of those images are of women. That's just revolting, disgusting, horrible.
Yeah, I saw those statistics as well, and
And people are like, haha, AI is the future. Meanwhile, AI being used to just create nudes.
literally, like that literally tells everything you need to know about society, really. Oh God, now it's really annoying. I think most of these new, I think the worst part is how these are created.
Yeah.
So you have these which are like in more common terms called nudify apps, and you need to supply, yes, you need to
What?
supply a real image of a woman because they basically to keep the face. So you need to see the face in order for the app to work. So you keep the face and you create a erotic image of her body, which is completely fake, but is based on a real woman's face. So by default, these apps are created with malicious intent. They don't work. Most of them, researchers saw this that most of them don't work on male faces. They only work on female faces, first and foremost. And second, for them to work, you need to have a face. So they don't just create AI image of naked women.
Yeah.
No, they work on like real people's faces and create the body based on those. So it is an app is created with the intention of do harm. And
Yeah.
that's what's so upsetting about it. And when I'm researching this, and there's a lot of people with argue like, oh, why are you guys complaining? It's better to be a fake than to be a real person like naked. In this case, like obviously a woman naked, blah blah. And the problem is that it's the intention, right? It's the
Yeah,
behavior itself.
but also a random person who will see it on the internet will not know if it's a deep fake or not because they're so
Exactly.
realistic. The person is gonna assume that someone released your own naked photos that you took yourself to the internet.
Exactly.
So it's like, what if this happened like, I don't know, in school or whatever, and then the teenager would like have her naked pictures, quote unquote, like distributed to like a group chat or whatever, and they wouldn't even be like her real pictures. All you need is a face. That's so creepy. Not only do you need to be careful not to send private pictures to someone you trust, like your boyfriend or whoever, but basically you're not safe with anything because someone can take a picture from your fucking passport or driving license or Facebook or a picture with your family and put it in a software like that and create a picture of you naked. And that's just so disturbing.
Yeah, exactly. And it especially there's a lot of incidents that this happens at school. So that's literally already condemned as child pornography. And it's just so disturbing how it's you say it's fake, but you are intentionally harming someone on purpose. Like that's how the app works. There's a lot of incidents at middle schools and high schools of boys who go and use pictures of their classmates, their female classmates, do this on their apps and send it to them. So there's cases of like blackmailing young students, young female students with these. It's like, I'm gonna share this with everyone if you don't do this or whatever. Like not even money, like even other stuff to them. And
And
it's like this is seriously a Black Mirror episode. Like it's how real it is. Creating fake nudes images that are hyper realistic. You can't tell if it's real or not. And here's the point, it doesn't matter if it's real or not because it's gonna have the same damage to the victim.
in a sense, it's even more damaging than a real picture because you have virtually like zero control of it. And
Yeah,
because with a real picture, you can at least be like, yeah, I took this myself and I sent it to someone, which is not your fault. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but at least you know it's your own picture and you took ownership of it. With something like that, someone literally takes ownership of your image and creates something fabricated that is meant to be real. That's like, for me, the whole fake, oh, it's fake, it's like AI generated argument is so dumb because the purpose of the software is to make it look as realistic as possible. That's the whole point. Like it's not like
Yeah.
you're looking at it and it looks like an auto-tuned, like airbrushed image of like a random naked body or a mannequin. No, it's made to look very, very realistic, matching your face and your, body shape, etc., etc. And so you can't use that argument. You can't say that, oh, obviously it's fake or whatever, because the sole purpose of it is to make it as real as possible and to do as much harm as possible and to trick others into thinking that, yeah, this is a real person, a real photo of this person, and to use it against them and to put them in a compromising position. And that's so creepy. And also, having pictures like that online can impact your life in so many ways, not to mention like social commentary, but also impact your work and your privacy. And it has like such big, severe, like psychological effects as well, especially on someone super young, like a teenager. That's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And then to think about that, what kind of precedes, which is obviously leaking nudes and explicit videos that are, I don't know, you make for your boyfriend or for whatever. And then they leak to like a group, WhatsApp group. That was a huge and still is a huge problem today. And I feel like we don't even have enough regulation for those, much less for an AI generated image. Like that's what worries me so much is like that speed and the fact that sure, like a person in high school can go to the law and say this happened to me, and they might have a law about it, but it's also not certain. But if the photo itself or the video itself is AI generated like a deep fake, there's actually no laws, unfortunately, for those things. And as much as we are trying to condemn the distribution of these images, which is even though the laws are all about that, with AI, we need to condemn the creation of them. I
Yeah,
feel like those stripping, nudify apps should be illegal in my opinion. I think they
yeah,
should
they
be
should not exist at all. You shouldn't have access to something like that. It shouldn't be like common access that you can take someone's picture and make it naked for whatever reason, whether it's like for your own pleasure, for making someone feel bad or blackmailing them, for whatever reason it is, it's wrong. And it's an abuse of your personal ownership of your own body.
Yeah, the violation of privacy happens the moment you upload someone else's picture on a Nudify app. So
Exactly.
you get your privacy violated when that image is created, and it keeps on being more when you distribute it. So I really am of the opinion that governments with the AI ones, they should condemn on the creation and engagement of those images right at the source. Like you should go just shut all of them down. Like they should not be available because all of them I also tend to be free, and others you have to like pay, I don't know, $10 to get like a very hyper realistic image, which is also extremely affordable. And then you have a random person getting money out of what I think should be considered sexual crimes, actually.
Yeah, obviously. And in so many cases, they are used to harass people. So this should be considered sexual harassment?
It is. And I think it also furthers the discourse that harassment literally does not have to be physical. This can and it has as many damage if you had harassed that person physically. Like the victims suffer the same symptoms,
Exactly.
the same post-traumatic symptoms, everything. And it's crazy. And I don't know, like this deeply moves me and it makes me feel so hopeless in a way for like the future because I feel so disgusted and that we're in this constant war almost of reclaiming our bodies, even faked ones. Like that's so dystopian. Like we keep fighting for our privacy and our dignity as well as human beings,
Yeah, not
always
to
trying
be
to claim that
perceived
power.
as objects, as images, as something that can be distributed for someone else's fun or pleasure?
And it's all about power in the end, because why they did that to Taylor Swift, it's not just because of sex, it's because of power. You have a figure that has a huge social and cultural power, for example, in America,
Yeah.
and those hundreds of images, deepfakes, it was clearly an attack. It's a clear statement saying you can do whatever you want, but we still can do this to you. We can still bring you down as easily as this. And it is true. And it's disturbing. It's scary. And it makes me even scared of just, I don't know, posting a photo with my dog, because even that can become a sexual image, like anything. And it's so scary. Like it makes me want to go leave this world and go live in a cabin forever.
I know. As long as your image goes on the internet, which is pretty much inevitable, you're subject to this. You might as well be the next person that it happens to. You may even never find out about it. That's like even scarier to me that
It
those
can be happening right now.
exactly that
Literally.
those images can be circulated and you'll never know. Or like there have been instances, not even images, but also videos of women finding themselves on porno sites
Yeah,
because
yeah.
their image has been used to generate like a porn video. Can you imagine that? That's just so disgusting, revolting, and crazy. And the fact that there is no regulations around this whatsoever, and the fact that someone created this kind of technology is so deviant and creepy. And that's why AI should have been regulated way, way, way earlier, because now it's way too far in and we will never catch up. That's the point.
No, that's the thing. Like they will never caught up, and it's gonna. And when you're trying to fix what is happening right now, what's gonna happen tomorrow is already been created like 10 years ago, for example. It's really that fast, and it's really that deep. I could even say these videos, images, all AI generated. I feel that they should be considered like digital trafficking, in my opinion, because when literally any woman can end up in a pornographic film or image with AI generated sexual acts for, sexual gratification and also sadistic fantasies, because they tend to be always quite violent without their consent and highly distributed for a broad digital network. That's literally trafficking. Should be a sexual crime.
It should be. And the fact that it's not is crazy, to be honest.
So I saw this news on BBC, and I don't remember her name, but I think she is a writer, author, and she also had that thing happen to her when one day she found of someone telling her like, I found this video on a porn website and had your face.
Yeah.
And she was in news about her just telling about that experience and what it felt to her to find those images, and she being well aware that I know that's not me, but it's still affecting my privacy and it makes me deeply uncomfortable. And I saw this comment. This is like on Instagram. I saw this comment, obviously by a guy. I'm gonna say his name is called Stefan, and he says sometimes people should just grow some thicker skin. There's fake porn of you, so what? I would say people find me attractive then. Don't like it? Don't talk about. That would make blah blah. I don't know what that means. Affect work. Simple as that goes. I never knew this woman, but now the only thing I will know about her is that she has fake porn of herself. This is the comment,
Wow.
which goes beyond me because it goes like, oh, so what? I would say people find me attractive. I'm like, you definitely don't even know how porn works, obviously, because porn itself is very exploitive as an industry. And
Exactly.
it's always been made from your
Provocative.
POV. Yeah, it's made from your POV, is made for you. You're never the one getting fucked, slapped, I don't know, all the horrible things that happen in porn. No, it's the woman. So of course for you, if that happens, would not be that bad. You're the one who's
Yeah,
fucking out. It's not the other way
exactly.
around.
And you're the one who like looks down on women, and women in porn industry are already so stigmatized. And to say that like, oh, this fake image would be so what? Like you shouldn't worry about it. That's so insane. And the fact that in the end he says, oh, I will only remember this woman by this, just proves the fucking point. Because
Yeah,
then the only
literally.
thing you will focus on, you will just focus on her as the sexual object who you saw in a porn video, whether it was real or not. And the accomplishments of the real person, the fact that she has a life, the fact that she's an author, the fact that she never did this in her entire life, no.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny to me that, this is a clear violation of privacy, but, people are always so over preoccupied with, like, for example, ID verifications on social media, blah, blah, blah. they're like, oh, that would be too much. But then they don't give a damn of the millions of women already being affected by these deepfakes and non-consensual AI porn.
Yeah.
Like that is also a violation of their privacy. Oh, just grow a thicker skin. Like sometimes I wish you had a deep fake of you with like a dick being thrown into your mouth and see how you would feel. Like
Yeah, or
literally,
like you
you
being
would,
attacked by another man because I'm sure you're homophobic. So,
yeah,
what if
like
you saw a
literally,
video of yourself like that in a gay porn? Like, I'm sure you would do everything in your power to shame the person who did that, find them, and prosecute them. Because obviously, when it concerns men, it's always a problem. But when it concerns women, it's always dismissed until something horrible happens and the woman commits suicide
yeah.
or even something worse, or she's assaulted in real life. And even then, probably nothing's gonna happen. So it's just, yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, the problem is in the behavior. I remember there was this TV show that I'd never seen the full thing because, again, me, AI, robots, I feel anxious about it, so I couldn't watch it. But from the first two episodes, it was very good. I just did not have enough stomach to watch it. But I think it was called Humans. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's basically like a dystopian world, a future where you have robots that are our assistants and they're made to do the most like labor work part. And of course, most of them you have men and women are always assistants at home, blah, 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 those kind of things. We follow pretty much one family. In the whole story, basically, the robots start getting their own conscience and start rebelling against. So they're just trying always to shut them down. And there is a specific scene where this boy is giving like a house party. He's a teenager, and the party kind of still a bit out of control. And this robot, which is the woman assistant, she obviously is part of her role to keep things quiet and keep things in shape. And all the rowdy boys are, oh, just shut up, just leave us alone. They turn her off. And you think, well, this could just be it. They turn her off. They keep doing the party. But no, the boys go and start gang raping her. And the guy who made the party, which is like our main character, he is like, well, you don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? You'd already turned her off. And he's like, why do you care? It's just a robot. Like, go away. And then they go and do it. They gang rape the robot who is like turned off. So
That's
why? So what's the problem here? It's not the fact that she's not real. It's the behavior itself. The pleasure that those boys were having is not of the woman. And in any case of the images, it's not the naked women. Is to see a woman or girl that you know and be able to do anything you want with her. So again, it's not about the sex, it's about the power you have over
it's
that woman.
like it's literally analogical to sedating a woman in a club, making her unconscious, and then raping her. That's the same situation. I think is that like seeing things like that just makes you think that's like acceptable behavior in a sense.
Yeah, and it shows that what happens when you give literal total freedom with no consequences. Because the thing with AI images, because there's no legislation, is like I can do whatever I want with them and they actually cannot prosecute me. So it's like I'm going to create these images and I'll have no consequences. Same thing with this character in this story. I'm going to rape this woman and I have no consequences. It's just a robot. I have no problems. And that is this total freedom that you can see the true, perhaps, nature of the people and how cruel they can be. If you are allowed to do something, will you do it? And
Yeah.
that's the case. If you are allowed to rape this woman, to create these sexual images of this woman without having any consequence, will you do it? And if you say yes, that means you're a bad person. Literally, that's the problem.
Man. Like, why do we do this to ourselves? Like, we talk about these things, and then at the end of every episode, I'm like, Freud, sad about the purpose of life. This is a good thing to mention. And about like 2 months ago, before I had my period, and I didn't realize I was about to get my period, I would just randomly start crying on my sofa because I'm a woman and now will never have equal rights in this world. And it would just come to me randomly, like during my day. So I was like just literally chilling in my house, and suddenly the thought would just dawn on me. And I would just like start crying that I will never have equality in the workplace, that I will never have equal chances and stuff like that. And I wasn't even like sad. I was sobbing alone
Oh,
in my house. And I was like, you know what? No fucking wonder why. Because then I read about things like that and it's just, yeah.
I know. I mean, that's why I chose this hard liquor for this episode. It was not accidental, okay?
That was smart, girl, because the coffee, not enough, not enough.
It's just making you more awake for this problem.
I know. I'm just like, my brain is spinning Oh,
No, yeah.
yeah.
I think I would like to maybe finish with possible positives, just to not make it so grim. But I think that exactly the fact that it is fake images, we can address deeper issues within rape culture. As you said, you cannot blame
Yeah.
us for this. Like you managed to blame us for anything, for everything that happened of violence against us, especially sexual violence.
We dress too
With this,
promiscuously, we ask for every flirt, yada yada.
all of that, all of that. Like why did you make a video of yourself? You're risking yourself. Why are you dressing in that way? Why are you walking down the streets at this time of the night? And in this time, I could be seated at home, dressed like a potato, doing nothing. And I can have literally right now a video of myself in a pornographic website. I can. And I did nothing for that to happen. So
Yeah.
I think a possible positive, if you can call it, is addressing this like victim blaming discourse that still pretty much exists within rape culture. And also the more mental effects that it has on the victims. So yeah, the victim was not physically harassed. Yes, that video is not actually of her, but she's suffering exactly the same symptoms. Well, this means that it's a deeper issue. And my hopes is that the victims are taken slightly more serious, especially on the mental damage part of things, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. That's a very good point that you can clearly see that the blame is literally on men and the blame is always on the aggressor and the person who is committing the crime. And I think that this is a very, very good example. And hopefully, hopefully the exponential speed of it evolving will also like highlight more issues quicker. And maybe the scale of it will be so big that at some point people will finally realize that it's about time to do something about it. And obviously AI can be a good thing and it can be a big aid and it can solve like real world issues, but it has to be used smartly and it has to be used with good intent. And that's just very hard to achieve in a society of people who are motivated mostly by their own gains and their own pleasure and their own good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say only that since the biggest problem is the speed of it, I would say like, well, first we need to reinforce legislation, and obviously we can just fight with the same weapons. There was this researcher who said AI could even be part of the solution, so you can track down this content, eliminate it quicker with AI as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's all about training AI to do good instead of doing bad and worse. And I don't know, I think governments need to take more
Yeah, more
ownership
control. Yeah.
on these problems and not be like, oh, online is for kids. You know what I mean? Like, bro, come on. We have internet
Like
since the
grow
90s.
up.
Keep it up. We can only hope, right?
We can only hope. We can dream, we can think of all the solutions, but are they actually gonna apply it? We don't know. We might be dead by the time, so who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Well, with that, we promise that next time we have a lighter, more fun episode.
Yeah, it's gonna be our 10th episode, so we'll definitely do something
Yes.
fun.
So we're gonna make a mini party, as much as we can. Do come to participate for sure. And if you reach this far, I hope you don't feel hopeless about the world because there's gonna be more episodes of Heaven. You can look up for that
Yeah, exactly. And don't believe everything you see on the internet.
as well, as well. Well, and with that, we leave you. Thank you so much for listening, and
Have
we'll
a
see
good
you next
day.
time.
Bye.
Bye.